Hello YouTube. Today I'm working on my old 96 GMC pickup truck, and pretty much what we've done to it is well, I put a new transmission under there, and right now I'm currently replacing the oil pan gasket because it had a little leak on the front and on the rear, and I've done the rear main seal as well. And I don't know if you can see back there or not, but there's no drive shaft still in there because I got to do the rear pinion seal, and kind of find out I have a busted wheel cylinder. Yay. So I'm going to be doing that too. But my purpose of making this video today was, well, again, when trying to find information on putting transmissions in trucks and changing oil pans and whatnot, you don't really find anything too educational, as it were. A lot of people moving a lot too fast or whatever. Now, I know I have most of the work done here, but I'm going to help explain to you some steps that may give you an idea. A lot of it, you know, it's just main grunt work, you know, yanking, pulling, taking bolts out, this, that, or the other, that you're going to have to do on your own. But the basic steps of it, you know, I'll include, and the rest of it, well, you know, you'll just have to figure it out through manual labor. Alright, so in order to start to get this transmission out, you got to start back there at the differential. You got to take the 4 bolts loose that's holding on the yoke to slide the drive shaft out. Now, if yours is like mine is a 2-piece. That only gets half of it out. So you dropped out the first main drive shaft. Well, then you got to come up. There'll be a knuckle there, or a split joint, where the 2 drive shafts meet together. There's a couple bolts that hold that in. Once you take those 2 bolts out, the drive shaft is pretty much free, and then you can slide it out the back of the transmission. Now, that's out your way. Okay, then you got to come up here to the actual transmission itself. You got to undo the linkage, the speed sensor cable, and the neutral start switch and all that that's on the side. The neutral start switch is pretty much held on. It's over here where your linkage is at, and your shift cable right there. It's all on the side right there. You won't miss it. I mean, if you got an older model 4L60 like mine, that's where it'll be. Now, if it's a newer model 4L60, it's in a similar location. You know, there's a few difference on the electricals, but still roughly about the same deal, same process. But once you get all that unplugged and hooked, I'm going to tell you now, trying to unplug that neutral start switch, those plugs that are in there, they're probably going to be seized up pretty well. I couldn't get them undone, so that's why I just took the whole switch off, and I just kind of zip tied it to the side out the way. You get your speed sensor off the back and plug it. That's relatively easy. Once that's done, you have to get your lines here. Now, my lines, that's what I had one of the hardest things, trying to figure out how to get them damn things out of there. But what it is there's 2 clips. Well, there's a clip in each one of them. You got a little plastic retainer. That little plastic retainer goes up in there. I doubt you can see that. But that little plastic retainer that's in there, you got to get you some of them little dental pick tools. And you kind of mess around with it. It's a tedious little bastard. But once you get it, it'll pop up a little bit. Then you grab it with the little pick tool and you kind of pull it out. And you'll have to repeat it. Now, once you do that, those lines will slide straight on out. Relatively easy. But you might not want to take them out yet, because you're going to get transmission fluid everywhere, to get in your face or get on your hands. It's a pain in the ass, so just don't do it. Kind of leave them in there. Alright. Now, you're wondering how to get to the damn bell housing bolts. Well, I was wondering how to get to the damn bell housing bolts. Well, that turns out you have to go back over here to where the cross member's at. Go ahead and take your cross member out, get your jack, put it underneath the pan right here to kind of support it a little bit. Once you get your jack underneath there to support it a little bit, take the cross member out. You're going to lower the transmission down easily, just a little hair at a time. And now, believe it or not, when you lower that transmission down, you'll actually be able to get to the bolts that hold the bell housing. You'll be able to see them a hell of a lot easier. Now, passenger side is more of a pain in the ass. You've got more shit in the way. You got the lines, you got the dipstick tube, and some wires and shit all in your way. But I mean, you can still get to them relatively easy. Now, the driver's side, you can see them right there. They're just 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 and you can pull them right out. Once you get them right out, you got to get your torque converter bolts out. Now, don't forget to take torque converter bolts out, or you'll never get the motherfucker out. Okay? All right. They're simply right here. You're going to have to rotate your flywheel to get to them because the flywheel is bolted to the torque converter. There's two ways of doing that. You can kind of get you a pry bar in here, and you can rotate it yourself that way until you get to them. I mean, like I said, there's only 3 of them there. Or you can go back and forth and come up here to the front, the front harmonic balancer pulley right here, and you can turn it with a wrench and then get them out. Now, if you don't have a impact gun to get these out with, you're going to have to do it by the harmonic balancer, and you're going to have to get somebody to hold the harmonic balancer while you break these loose with a ratchet or whatever you're trying to use. We use impact guns a whole hell of a lot faster. If you don't have any, invest in them. It's a very wise decision. You may have noticed I don't have a dust cover on here because I almost literally destroyed it. It's like a tin can kind of a deal. And getting this damn exhaust pipe out the way, well, that don't work too fucking well because it's still attached. I almost took a sawzall and cut the son of a bitch, but I didn't do it. Anyway, yeah, so this is kind of hit and miss. You don't really need one. I mean, you can drive without it. I'm probably going to get me one and replace it just because I'm a little OCD about it. If I'm going to fucking do it, I want it to look professional. And eventually I will get another one. I'll replace it. I'll probably get me a universal plastic one that you can get. They're relatively cheap. And if they don't fit just right, it will cut itself in because it's plastic and you won't have to worry about it. What's next? And that's pretty much it to get the transmission out. Assembly is pretty much just a reversal. You just jack it up, get your belt housing bolts back in, put your torque converter bolts back in, and then put your transmission mount and all that in cross member, and everything's pretty much done. Get your lines in. Now, when you put your lines in, you want to go ahead and put the clamps in first inside, because you're not going to get the clamps in once you get the transmission in. So do that first, and then once you have the clamps in there and the transmission plate, the lines will just ploop, ploop, now plug on in, and you won't have to worry about it. Relatively easy. It's all time consuming and kind of manual labor, pain in the ass, but I mean, it can be done. So far as the oil pan here, that's relatively easy. Well, on this 2-wheel drive of mine anyway, there are 4 13mm bolts, 2 in the back here, 2 up here, and then the rest of them are 10mm bolts that run around the line here. These are actually studs in the front and in the back here. And that's what you're going to put your gasket. That's what holds the gasket in place so you can get your pan up there. You are going to have to move the oil dipstick, which comes in on the side around in this area here. And there's a 10mm bolt up at the top. And then you just kind of wiggle it back, take it out, and then just kind of wiggle it back and forth till you get enough room to clear. And then you'll be able to get your gasket or your old gasket out. When you get ready to put the new gasket in, you put your new gasket in, it will hang on these 4 studs back here. Well, I'm sorry, the 2 studs back here and the 2 studs at the front. Okay, that's what holds them back in place. Once you have the gasket in place, push your old dipstick back down where it needs to go and everything, because it runs through here. It's got to get out the way. It's kind of hard to do when you get your pan on, so just run it back through here. Okay, and then you can put your pan back up and snug up your 2 here. You tighten one here, one here, one here, one here, or whatever. Get them snug, and then you can work on putting the rest of the bolts back in. And to get your pan back on, fill it back up with oil, put your filter back on. Bada bing, you're done with that. And then you can start putting your drive shaft and everything back on, and get her on down the line. Now, I did take my starter off. You can see it's not here. They say you don't have to take the starter off to get the transmission out. I personally took it off to get it the hell out of my way. It's just better to get it out your way. It's a pain in the ass to get off, but it's kind of worth the pain in the ass when you're trying to do all this, especially in such close quarters. I hope this kind of answers or clarifies any questions as to the steps that you might have or wondering about getting a transmission in and out, or maybe even oil pan. Oil pan is relatively easy. At least on this one, I don't have to jack it up or anything. It will come right on out. Well, I take that back. If you had the dust cover right here, the dust cover would be a pain in the ass to get it past, and you'll probably end up actually having to take that dust cover off to get to the studs back here. You can kind of push it out the way and get them out, but when you're actually trying to finagle the oil pan out past the dust cover, yeah, it's a pain in the ass to get it out, because I've had to do it before. And to get the dust cover out, you got to take, well, if you have this, you'll have to take this loose to kind of pry it down, and that's a pain in the ass. It's a two-person job, so don't try to do it by yourself. Get you some help if you got to pry this out the way. But that dust cover does kind of have to come off to get this out. I mean, you may be able to finagle it and bend it a little bit. I mean, you can try it or whatever. I just found it's easier to move this damn thing and take this off. So that's it for right now. I'm going to continue putting this baby back together. Any questions, leave them in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Thank you for taking time to watch. Peace.